With your permission, we'll start with the Public Works Committee. Those are Mr. Lawson, Mr. Johnson, and others of the city up here on the dais. The first item is 35 in the book, and it's, James, will you bring that up about an ordinance rezoning a portion of Yorktown?
Yes, sir. That's the rear of the Yorktown subdivision that was originally zoned C2 commercial. They had requested it to be rezoned as a diverse use corridor for other uses. Since then, they've changed their mind on their use, and they have an entity wishing to buy the whole tract and put up a facility. So they would like to go back to the C2 zoning, which we have approved, the zoning commission has approved, and they are requesting to be finally adopted today.
This is a modification of this particular one?
Yes, sir, that's it, back from
back to the original.
Right.
Any questions concerning this revision? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Less, not more. Right?
Well, it's different. The diverse use corridor is for multi-use.
Right.
This is going to be for a single facility.
That's what I was saying.
So it'd be a less use, I would guess you would say, in that case.
It's a consolidated item.
Right.
Yeah.
Second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Item number 2, which is 36 on the agenda.
I'm sorry, Ms. Silver.
Second item, Basin Street, where we had that discussion a few weeks ago.
Yes, sir. That's rezoning from a SF2 to a C commercial. The owner has requested that change so that he can operate a repair shop out of that building. And the
zoning commission recommended it.
The zoning commission approved it. There was protest at the zoning commission meeting, but they went ahead and approved it over the protest.
I spoke with the fire chief a few minutes ago, and he seemed to believe that there was a problem that we would have having the same thing, same two entities in the same type of building, and it would violate both city ordinances and code.
Yes, there definitely would be a problem with that. The owner would, before he could use it as a separate entity, he would have to go back and get a special exception for the residential use. And at that time, all that would be addressed. But yes, he's still going to have to do renovations and come up with fire code and building code standards to be able to do what he wants to do with it.
So if this is approved, it cannot be utilized as such until he goes back for further requests to make some modifications. Am I not correct?
Yes, he would have to make some modifications, and he would not be able to use it residential any longer without special exceptions.
The other thing would be setting a precedent. It's SF2 now?
Yes, sir.
Would be setting a precedent to allow this type thing in other SF2 areas. I wouldn't be in favor of doing that.
Yeah. Well, it was not recommended by the administration, and like I said, there was a protest. I think there were 2 people protesting at the zoning committee, at the zoning meeting, which I believe the minutes may be attached in your book.
Well, I mean, the only problem is you open this up in one area of town, wherever it is, and you open it up everywhere. And I'm certainly not in favor of having a car repair facility next door to me.
I believe it's going to be truck repair.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
That is in my district, and according to, I think you have 150 feet on either side for people to protest, for neighbors.
So it's 100 feet.
100 feet. Well, I haven't heard any protests from any of those neighbors within that 100 feet.
Actually, it's 100 feet have to be notified. And then you place signs and you place advertisements in the paper. And I would presume that anyone in the area would have the right to come to the meeting, but you actually notify by registered mail the people within a 100-foot radius of that property. And that was done.
You might recall there were some protests when we had our meeting last time.
Yeah, and my whole thing is that if the neighbors that are adjacent to in behind and in front, and on either side, if they're not protesting, and they're the ones directly affected by it, I don't see a problem.
Well, as I said, the problem I have with it is that we set a precedent for the city. We did it long ago on a property on Jackson Street that inadvertently was approved to have a gravel parking lot when they shouldn't have had one. And we allowed it because a mistake was made to say, and the person that was building it run out of money. Within 6 months, we probably had 8, 10, 12 gravel parking lots all over the city that had been constructed due to our oversight in that area. So I can't, in all honesty, be in favor of this.
Myron, did you want to have a comment?
I guess I'm always partial to what the neighborhood is saying. If you have an outcry, based on what I'm hearing, in opposition, now these folks, you're saying they live adjacent to it?
Nowhere near.
Yeah, I'd rather see this property owner go back and work with the neighborhood and get them to a comfort level that I feel comfortable in supporting them. Just
Let me put this spin on it. If we were to approve this today, it would be counterproductive at the moment because it would not be utilized for this until there was such time he cured these other shortcomings. In view of that, may I suggest that we just either delay it or move it down and he can come back later on? Would that be like? Sir?
pull it.
Pull it? Done. Okay. So I have to have a motion on that? It's done. Let's go.
Without comment.
I didn't say a damn thing.
I'm not going there.
Early you slip.
You have something else?
We'll have the fast track report.
I know that. Okay. Thank you. Mike?
Delayed.
We delayed the zoo when we saw the kitchen cost.
May I make a comment on number 3? I asked about it because when I saw that figure, I figured they had steaks and stuff for the animals. I don't know what the hell it was for 430 some odd $1,000, but I understand it's delayed at the request of the mayor. He's not going for dinner.
Well, yeah, we had some issues with it. I think they use different rubs for the jaguars and the tigers. They like different kinds of grills and stuff, how they do their meat. So apparently a $50,000 job was a $500,000 job before it was over.
Okay. All right, Wayne, Michael, I mean.
Good afternoon, sir. 3 items we really want to discuss this afternoon as far as the fast track report. The first is on page 1. It's item 1B. We opened the bids for the Versailles Extension Phase 1, Package 2. The low bid came in about $400,000 less than the estimate, so we're looking pretty good with that respect. Of course, we still have to review the bids and make sure everything's in line on those things. Of course, if they are, we'll award that contract in 2 weeks.
At the same time, too, are you not going to work with the administration to see to it that we have a formal dedication of initiating rather active participation as far as fast track so we can show evidence of having done something?
Yeah, so we're looking at having a formal groundbreaking the week of the 23rd through the 27th, one of those days in that week there.
Thank you.
We're working to that end. Second item I have is number 7 on page 2, is the North Mall Drive project. Contractor's moving very smoothly on there. He's actually into the second stage of construction. It's the widening between Sturks and Lee Street. No snafus. Everything's going very good with that project. We're on schedule to have most of the construction completed before the Thanksgiving break, so before the shopping season. And the third item I have is a Southern Heights Subdivision Improvements Phase 2. It's on page 4, item number 21.
You're on Broadway. I want to discuss a little bit. I know this is future and probably doesn't involve much of the city. Anyone that goes down Broadway particularly, that past the intersection when you're trying to turn into Pineville, that's consistently getting worse. Getting on I-49.
Oh, yes, sir. I see what you're saying.
And I don't know how we find relief that what we're doing on North Mall will help alleviate the traffic congestion there. But I'm less concerned about the accidents.
Right.
And the congestion.
Yes, sir.
Where we looked at that,
Yeah, that on-ramp is really with DOTD. That's their roadway. We can probably talk to them and see if they have any plans for widening that ramp. I know it necks down from 2 lanes to 3 pretty quickly.
Right.
That's something we can look
Problem
at.
is, man, my concern is that we at least start with DOT, some discussions about trying to alleviate the problems, and that's, I mean, you can see the traffic
Yes, sir.
going to Pineville and out of Pineville at fast.
Yes, sir. Sometime last year, I noticed they did open up to 2 left turn lanes, so that did help with the traffic there, but just kind of moved the bottleneck further up the ramp. That's something we can discuss with DOTD. Yes, sir.
Maybe we can do something to help with Broadway as well, putting turn lanes in the Jones Street area too.
Yes, sir. I see what you're, right turn lane?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Let's see, a third item I had was on page 4, item number 21, the Southern Heights. We were supposed to have the bid opening this morning, but the engineer requested a delay of 2 weeks to revise some plan sheet quantities. They did find an error, so to make sure that we have a fair bid, we would actually delay it 2 weeks. And also, as a
Go back out, go back out for bid?
no, sir, no, it won't have to be re-advertised, it'll just delay the bid 2 weeks. And also, I guess with Versailles already let now, or they're pretty much settled with the bids there, we may get a little more interest on the Southern Heights job, a little better prices. And lastly, I have an item with respect to the Program A, the roadside open ditch enclosure program. We had a change order for one of the upcoming projects for us next year,
What page
Sally
is that?
Street. It's not on this report, sir.
Change what I have.
You would do that change order, so just in following with the policies and procedures adopted by the city council, the change order is between 5% and 10%, so we just notify.
Advisory only, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
No action is necessary.
Right.
Anything else?
No, sir.
So you hadn't started none of the
No, sir. We actually got a first work order from Pan American yesterday with respect to Hyman Lane. We're going to start the drainage improvements along that route there. Riley should be moving out to site sometime next week. They're ready to move, so we've gotten
What
the.
about Savage Street?
Yes, sir.
We don't want Savage.
Yeah, I know you missed the last brief.
Yeah, I
I'll give
missed
you a
the
copy of that our schedule.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yes, sir.
So you don't know when?
Timeline may be a little bit difficult to say, but I mean, it's number 4 on our list behind Horseshoe Drive and Hudson. It'll probably be a little bit later this summer when we get to that.
Okay.
So it will be
Okay,
prior
but
to
now
September.
Horseshoe is coming up, Horseshoe to,
Horseshoe
Grove.
Drive from Grove
Yeah,
to...
right.
Right, yes, sir. We got the first preliminary plans, second submittal from EJES. This last week, we're reviewing that, and we're sending comments back. It'll be later this week.
appreciate it.
That's it, Mr. Robertson?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I have 3,
Harry, how about the completion of Elizabeth Street? Where do we stand on it?
that's Mr. Redmond. He's been on sabbatical leave. He's back.
We added a sidewalk for the other side of the roadway. Originally, we only had the sidewalk on the south side of the street. We went back and added planned quantities for the north side. Until we got that plan change order approved, which we did last city council, Riley was waiting, the contractor was waiting until that was approved. They should be mobilizing back out to the site next week. So,
Chuck, if he's going to sit in. We have 3 other items. We had an earlier meeting today concerning what we're doing with the parks and an ordinance. I have therefore to recommend an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter a professional services agreement with Lowe's and Associates for the development of a comprehensive parks and recreation plan. We would like to present that at the meeting today. Do you need a motion on that? Second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Next is a revocation. This is a revocation of the 50-foot right-of-way of Bayou View Drive located on lot 6, 7, 8, 9 in Bayou View subdivision. That's the Pentecostal church. They said that they have some property near there and there's no need to, they don't need it, they want to have it revoked. It's been reviewed by the Waste water, wastewater, and engineering departments, and they concur with it. So they're making that request. This was just brought down a few minutes ago, and we agreed to present it to the committee. Any objection? If not, move. Second. All right. And I also have another one from Charles Frederick. Every week he has something else. You're up to $5 million now. Revocation of a portion of a 10-foot wide utility servitude easement located along the right-of-way of Bayou View Drive and along the common boundary between lots 3 and 4 of Bayou View subdivision. Okay? That's it. Anything else?
I got one other item.
Okay.
As you all know, there's a group that's been working hard to raise some funds to help rehab the Bringhurst Golf Course, and they're online with a significant endeavor. We need some enabling legislation for them, and Trey has prepared an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into cooperative endeavor agreement with individuals, legal entities, and foundations that will offer assistance, improvements, and services to the Bringhurst Park Par 3 golf course and otherwise to provide with a respect thereto. And I need a motion and a second to introduce that.
A second.
You have a motion and a second to
Will
introduce.
this cancel any other contracts that we had? Did we have a group at one time?
I don't think we have
No,
any
sir.
contract.
Matter of we're working with some of the same people, Gator, Boys and Girls Club. There's a number of people that are involved in this.
I got it. That's something Nancy.
There are enough. At least to give them time to develop it, and we'll see how we work it out. And I think it's a great idea. Thank you.
This is not to do anything
right.
but improve.
I got
They're not going to operate. They don't want any, they don't have any interest in
No,
that.
I got 3 things.
Some items from Mr. Smith. This is an ordinance for introduction, accepting the subdivision plat for Carlisle Place subdivision. Needs to be introduced.
I move
Need a motion.
introduction. Send it to this,
Next.
Oh, it's got 2 more, yeah. That's a,
And there's an ordinance for introduction of a subdivision plat for Stratford Manor subdivision.
move.
and how to, that's, you got to know.
You need to
Annex
second.
6.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to
All
introduce.
right. All those in favor? Aye. I never heard of this thing. Next.
Okay, it's an ordinance for introduction annexing 24.2397 acres of property adjacent to New York Avenue and Interstate 49 in sections 36 and 40 of Township 3 North, Range 1 West, Rapids Parish, Louisiana.
Move, send it to public works.
Move that we accept that.
Yeah.
That's across from Lawson Heights. That's that part in there they got for introduction. Also, it has 5 acres in there for commercial. In between those two,
You do?
there's got 5 acres in there for development for commercial, you know, stores, whatever.
Okay.
Is that the
We-
city?
Yes, it's it. Yes, sir.
All those in favor, signify
It's
by
right to the
saying aye.
city.
But nothing, I'll take anything. Is there anything else to come before the Public Works? You have something?
Yes, sir.
We have 2 minutes.
Mr. Silver, a resolution from the administration authorizing advertisements of bids for the Business Education Center for LSUA. That's the build-out in the building, the Jake's building, at the site of the incubator. This will authorize, the plans and specs have been received from Alliance Group, and the money's in the budget. This allows us to go out on the bids process. If you recall, LSUA would like to be in the building around the 1st of January.
That's our money?
$100,000 is our money. LSU's putting up $67,000, and some other entities are putting up additional monies.
Utilities?
I'm sorry?
Utilities.
The utilities, the utilities are taken care of by current cooperative endeavors with LSUA and the business incubator.
Put that down in the newspaper.
Resolution motion.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Silver, one of the things I'd like to bring to your
Wait,
attention,
can I, let me, you make a motion, we accept that?
we accept that, make a motion to accept
How
that.
about you, okay.
Second.
Yes, Mr.
That's illegal, though.
Consider legal. Yeah, we discussed early in A&E, I think Mr. Silver, Mr. Hobbs, and I was president of the committee on the bid process, looking at where we are since 1991. In 1991, we passed an ordinance where the amount of bids would be $2,500, and I think that one of the things that the administration discussed with us is to revisit that, to update where we are with that process, so far as the amount of costs and what we receive so far as bids going out and coming into the city. So I think the administration is going to come back in a couple of weeks and give us a presentation on some changes that need to be done.
We should have to update a lot of things. Everyone in favor of that?
Mr. Silver, I have a resolution prepared that's consistent with what Mr. Johnson said.
A resolution authorizing the administration to conduct a complete review of the city's A&E policies and procedures and raising limits on, what do you have here? Preferred fees and services, professional fees and services from $2,500 to $25,000, which is consistent with public bid law, pending council approval of a comprehensive ordinance consistent with prevailing practices. That's what you just said a few moments ago.
Correct.
Is that right?
That's
okay.
correct.
Is there a motion to that effect?
Move Senator Legal.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor? That's it. Anything else to come before Public Works? This part of it is adjourned.
What's next?
I'd like to call the Personnel and Insurance Committee to order at this time. President of the committee, myself, Mr. Silver, Mr. Hobbs, other members of the council administration. Item number 1 is to consider final adoption of an ordinance amending the 2008-2009 operating budget, adding a clerical specialist position in the legal division. Book item number 38. At this time, we hear from Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Members of the council, in the budget that was passed for the 2008-2009 fiscal year, $69,813 was appropriated for 2 legal secretaries. The charter only allows me to have 1 unclassified secretary. So what I'm asking the council to do with this budget amendment today is to downgrade the other one to a clerical specialist with a salary of $21,000. It was reported in the media, or there was a misperception after an article that was written that the salary was $69,000 for 1 secretary. It's actually for 2, and the other one, by this budget amendment, would be downgraded to a lower pay and class, which would actually save the city some money. So with that clarification, I'd ask that you pass that.
We've heard from Mr. Johnson. Can we get a motion and a second?
Second.
Moving to second. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. No opposition. Recommended to the full council. Item number 2 is to hear an update from the administration concerning the utility director position.
I thought we were going to delay that, Mr. Johnson. We sent down a letter and asked that that be delayed.
Okay, I didn't get a letter on that in that response. And that, well, I didn't get in that response. That was from another item, but not for the utility director position.
There were 2
There must be
items.
been some miscommunication in that respect, but we'll delay it until we further hear from the administration.
Thank you.
Anything else come for personnel and insurance at this time? Okay.
It's introduction of an ordinance considering annexing Hideaway Crossing subdivision into the city limits.
Move. You move second?
I'm on the first now.
Anything else?
You better send it to committee.
Okay.
Yes, Mr.
I'll send it to Public Works. We'll send it to Public Works. Anything else coming before this committee at this time? Nothing else coming before this committee. This meeting is adjourned.
Call the Order Economic Development Committee, members present, yours truly, Mr. Silver and Mr. Johnson. We have item number 1. Now, see who's here. The czar of real estate in central Louisiana, if not Louisiana. Mr. Hill report.
He's also a workout fanatic.
I see he's working out a little bit. Has a little tan, but life is agreeing with him.
That's not a tan, that's temperature.
That's temperature. To hear from an update, a report from Rod Knowles on local economic development. I mentioned several weeks ago, I thought it's important. I'm always getting asked what's going on over here, what's happening there, and how's this uncalled recession affecting, impacting central Louisiana real estate. And I said, you know what, I'm going to go with the guy that I get an opportunity to hear on this radio show quite regularly, come and tell folks in central Louisiana what's going on and what's popping up, or what's going on in the sky, what's happening in front of Kroger's. Those kind of things will come to us any way you want to come. Mr. Rod Knowles.
Thank you, Mr. Lawson. It's a privilege to make this report. And when you make a report on numbers, you either have to be short or funny. And so I chose to go the short route. So what I have before you is a May's report, the activity that's taking place in May within the city limits of Alexandria. If you find it informative or interesting, I'd be glad to do this on a quarterly basis or a monthly basis if you're at all interested in it. There is no national weather report that's going to tell you if it's going to rain in your backyard tonight. There's just not one. I'm not so sure the local report can predict rain too well, but likewise, there's no real estate report that tells you what's happening at the corner of Main and Main and Alexandria, Louisiana either. So it's real estate's a local commodity. Interesting enough, the first 5 months in 07 compared to the first 5 months in 08, the market is down in central Louisiana by about 13.62%. That's a pretty big decline, so we're not immune from what's taking place in the real estate market nationwide, although you hear later on in the report some of the stuff that's happening nationwide is not happening here. For example, decline in home values. It's flat or barely under 1%. I never thought I'd be bragging about a market that was less than 1% decline in average home price, but it's not like other cities. And when we get to foreclosed properties at the end of my report, you'll see that it's one foreclosed property is too many if it's yours or it's your family or your friends, so I don't want to make light of any single foreclosure, but we're a lot better off than what's taking place in the rest of the country. I've categorized this with kind of a lead story that I don't know much about other than it's a big sale, and Foul Goose Realty is coming out of Baton Rouge. They just sold some 1,900 acres for $3.1 million, and one of the things that you're going to see in my report is one area in real estate that's prices are exceptionally high is agriculture properties. And you'll see in my report, I'll be talking about a Dollar General sale that sold on Horseshoe to a gentleman in Hamburg, Louisiana, and what's that mean to us and why is it on my report is that when beans are selling for $13 a bushel and corn's at $6 and wheat's at almost $20 a bushel, land prices for farming are going up substantially, and what we're seeing a lot of is people in the rural areas turn their farms into cash, parking that cash, and reinvesting it in commercial properties closer to town. So it's kind of like we're selling the family farm and we're bringing the dollars to the city and we're buying commercial real estate, and I'll report on one of those sales in just a minute. It goes without saying that the two hospitals, the medical field in general, is healthy and is pushing development in central Louisiana, both in construction jobs and permanent jobs. Under medical, I'm bringing your attention to a land assemblage that was done right next to the surgery center. I give this report, and I try not to smile to let you know that Sugar and Spice has a short life to it now. It's been sold.
You repeat that because I get a question about that all the time.
They,
Mr. Lawson's other concern is that's going to close or they're going to open a Hooters.
the gentleman that sold it is retired, Mr. Lawson. So and from there down to the trailer park, including the trailer park, it also includes Von Walding and Von Walding.
I see our zoo director smiling a lot. That's
Von Welding. I will say this. The whole time we worked on that assemblage, I never saw any of the councilmen at Sugar and Spice during the hours that I was there. So,
we don't go there late at night.
Rod, you said no humor, just plain stick to the facts.
Just say out, Jerry.
I'll be short and funny. But that land, that 15 acres, is about a $2 million assemblage, and the surgery center within the next 18 months is going to demolish that property. And I can't tell you what they're doing with the land because they don't know exactly yet what they're doing with the land. And but it will be a medical expansion.
And it butts up to one property over from what Gator did. Almost sounding.
Yeah, no, this is on the North Circle MacArthur, over by the old visiting.
Oh, Sugar and Spice. I'm sorry. I'm thinking about the other piece.
You're thinking about the adult?
Yeah, that's right.
At least you know where all those places are.
They often not go by.
They're interchangeable, man. It goes to both of them.
That's staying. That's staying.
Big piece too.
But that 15 acres there is going to be cleared out, and the North Circle, your Bolton is anchored at one end by the state police, the other end by the city police, and now the medical complex. And so that area has taken on a momentum of its own. The Walmart opening is no news to anybody as far as it's big news. It's what it has caused, though. It's very difficult now with the Walmart tsunami, easy for you to say, to find a piece of property on 28 West at under $20 a square foot. I didn't see that coming. You'll see at least 3 more banks in the next 12 months located out on 28 West. And you have the Ruggles Center, that's a little shop center that's under construction. You have the leasing of the Aggie skating ring that's going pretty well. And then the Highway 28 West Center at Calvert, which is occupied by Blue Cross. That's kind of the lead tenant there. That's almost 100% occupied. So that area is looking real good. And I don't know if you've reported it yet, but you took bids today. The city did at 10 o'clock this morning on what I call the second phase of Versailles. The engineers call it the first phase, but it's behind the utilities. And you had 5 bidders and a 10% variance over 5 bids. And the low bid came in to Progressive Construction, some $400,000 under budget. So that's really good news for that project. And it's within 3 years with that road being finished. 28 West has got kind of its own life. Under retail, MacArthur Village has about $4 million under construction. Hastings Books and Records has announced. Staples is rumored. We're not working that deal, so I don't know for sure who it is, so I can say who I think it is. And then West Texas Roadhouse, a steakhouse that competes with the likes of Logan's and Outbacks, is going there, and some other. The improvement to the mall entrance on Broadway.
The Roadhouse is, I will make sure people, that's going to be in front of
It's as you face Applebee's on the service road, it's immediately to the right. It's on that, we refer to it as that green site where the grass is right there in the front. The improvements to the mall road off of Broadway has really created some renewed interest in that section of town. Now, one of the things that as you look at sales tax with the new Walmart, in my opinion, this is the world according to Rod, that the numbers are going to be skewed slightly because the traffic jam that's caused by the road construction, expanding the existing road, is keeping customers away from that particular road. And so I think the numbers, it'll take a little while before you can really see accurate numbers of what's taking place at the Walmart by the mall and what's taking place out at 28 West. We talked about this Dollar General sale. $1 million sale, we may find later on is just not something that the council's interested in, but the thing that I find interesting is that piece of property was on Horseshoe and MacArthur Drive. A new Dollar General went in behind what we used to call the old Ewing Pools when it was located over there. Mr. Grimion developed that, and then he sold it to an investor who had sold their farm and come to town, so to speak, and I think you're going to see more of that. On the weak side of retail, $4 a gallon gasoline has a real impact on retail tenants, and I've been talking to landlords and properties that we manage. There's some of your bigger tenants in town are a month, 2, 3 months behind on their rents right now, and I think it's a harbinger to seeing some more vacant space in the market, especially if gasoline continues to stay at the price that it is. Current soft spots in the retail market are the continued leasing efforts of the mall. They're not doing as well as they wanted to. The Kaplan's building, a great building. We really don't have any significant interest on that. The Office Max next to Albertsons is still vacant, and the McKesson's building is a big part of that's vacant and still in play. But that's pretty healthy from a historical perspective. That new construction, retail, new areas going, and no big new vacant boxes coming on the market. So that's, I consider that really healthy compared to what's taking place in the rest of the economy. The second page, you'll see new home sales and lot sales for just the month of May. And some of you are going to give me your opinions, even if I don't ask for it. But some of you, I'm going to ask for your opinions if this was helpful. I'd be glad to do it again. You'll see that an anemic pace of 7 new houses. 7 new houses. That's really slow when you compare. In '06 we had 480 new housing starts, and if you annualize 7 new houses, that's under 100. And May is typically a month where we would see 12 to 20. 1 month the market doesn't make, but what they did, that certainly deserves watching. And then new lot sales. When you see only 3 close, fortunately 2 of them are in a subdivision that I have an ownership interest in, so I can say that we have 33% of all the market of closed lots in Alexandria, in the city limits. If you torture numbers sufficiently, they'll confess to about anything you want them to. And then the last part of my report is this marketplace is not faced with a large round of foreclosures. I've got my own editorial opinions on why that is. Again, if it's your property that's being foreclosed on, 1 is too many. What I've done in my notes, I've just said who the lender was and what the subdivision was. I didn't put anybody's names, although it's a matter of public record. But there were only 3 foreclosures in the month of May where the properties. Now here's what I measure: they come from the lenders to the market. I don't measure the ones that are foreclosed on and still in the lender's inventory, although we do survey lender's inventory, and it's very, very, very low right now, where in other parts of the country it's really competing with the existing market. Las Vegas, 1 out of 5 sales are foreclosed properties, and the lenders are taking reduced sales to convert the properties to cash. We don't have that here, and it doesn't look like it's on the horizon. We did have a piece of property, a development, that went back to the lenders, Alexandria North Park. There was some partnership disputes and some illness of one of the partners. The lender's taking it back and immediately sold off a piece of it to somebody that's going to put it in commerce, and that's a development that you'll see jump-started back and I think doing pretty well. Mr. Lawson, I don't know, we were kind of testing this to see if it's worthwhile. If you have any questions,
Smith.
Mr. Smith.
On the worst side, when it's finished, what do you think the economic impact, taxpayers, suggestions?
You know, the last road that the city built was connecting I-49 to the mall. Many of y'all were on the council. Many of the people in the audience were on the government staff to see that happened. I think that was so important that it paid itself back in probably under 2 years. What's taking place on 28 and the fact that we've been so long since we've had a new road, I think you're going to see with the sales tax, and there's no way to quantify this, but it's just my prediction, sales tax and ad valorem taxes, you're going to see a payback on that in less than 5 years. One of the things that we've done at our office, just as a joke, is if you look at Versailles as the spine, and you look at all the roads that feed into Versailles as the ribs, I don't think there's anybody that can name all the streets that will eventually tie into Versailles to keep people from not having to go to Jackson Street or 28 West to move up and down Versailles. So it's a great time to be doing this. Your timing is just right, and I think it's a 5-year payback. Now, I say that, and it's awful self-serving in that we're the manager of the Lake District. I don't have an ownership interest in it, so but I personally benefit from my profession and additionally as a taxpayer. But Mr. Smith, I think it's a 5-year payback. And so far, the first 2 bids that came in for the deep sewer that Riley Construction is working on, and the bid that came in this morning that Progressive was the low bidder on. And interesting enough, with 5 bids, you had a 10-point variance. That was pretty competitive, and it came in $400,000 under what I understand was in the engineer's budget for that. So you can't do it soon.
Under these chambers. I think Mr. Johnson after Mr. Smith finished it. Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Mills, you talked about several locations on your soft spots, but one place of interest I have concern is the McKesson building. Do you see a future in that facility?
I do see a future in it, Mr. Johnson. It's if you see a piece of property, this is my theory, that should be in commerce and it's not, there's usually some people chemistry involved with the flip side of that. McKesson and corporate America can spend their money the way they want to, but they spent $6 million, they being McKesson, in the interior finishes to that building, and they were a tenant, and they stayed there 14 months and closed it. But Parada is still on the lease, so the landlord isn't motivated. They're just not hungry. It's like an athlete. It's an athlete that has no competition. They don't play at the top of their game, and so we may have to wait several more years. But that is a jewel of an asset that's being grossly underutilized, and there's a play for it, but. Stars and the moon kind of have to line up personality-wise.
Yeah. Thank you.
What do you think, put you on the spot, significant things, if you have to name 3 things we can do to continue to revitalize downtown and move down towards the 3rd Street area to foster economic development?
A combination of public and private, and again, our downtown, when comparatively speaking, and it's good that we're never happy with the fact that we're doing well from a comparative standpoint, but you look at other small towns across the South and see what they look like infrastructure-wise, and you look at our city and you say, well, we're doing okay. We're doing okay. I don't know what it's going to take to get people to live in the Central Business District. We own the Masonic Building. We designed a condo complex. We did a 125-person survey on who would likely buy a condo, and we had 0. So something for after dark we need a little bit more life in the downtown area.
I heard that from one of the ministers. Interesting enough that we need some nightlife.
But when you look at the 138 city lots downtown, and 1/2 of the city of that section, the hospital, I used to call it, he's no longer CEO, but I used to call it the McLaurin amoeba, because it just kept growing and growing. And they've just added their, $50 million expansion. That half of the Central Business District has its own momentum going from a medical standpoint. So it's only the other side of Jackson Street, and the better that side does, that will eventually push down 3rd Street when Sugar House comes through. But it's more of a combination of private and public. The private money is going to follow 28 West. The private money is going to follow them all. So it's a partnership. If there was
We
one
have some
thing.
ambitious things that we're encountering, which I think is great, with the Spark plan. It's
Yeah.
going to promote the public-private partnership, because you don't have a successful development, as you alluded to, unless you get the private sector involved. But I'm particularly interested because that's the area, as we move south down 3rd Street, that we need to see some redevelopment. And redevelopment with a sense of urgency. I think the Brownsville site is just about cleaned up. Ms. Bright, is certainly going to be an opportunity for us. So I'm going to encourage you and other developers to look at that area and see what we can do to team up with the public-private partnership.
The investment tax credit deals are probably the, we have 450 decent, safe, and sanitary rental units come in the market on a kind of a lease-to-own program, and those by and far look like they've been maintained well, but those were tax incentives from the federal side too. So when I say government, I'm not talking municipal, because I'm talking state, federal also.
All right.
Thank you.
One more question, Mr.
We charge them a second one.
That's your question. Well, you see that once you open infrastructure, then you start expanding. Like we do 6th Street or 7th Street going back into Broadway, open that up, and coming across, from Upper 3rd, with the bridge, coming back in that way. I think when you start, like you say, Sugar House, when you start the infrastructure, start opening land. I'll ask you one more question. What do you think about the extension of the roadside of Walmart? You ever see that?
I see that.
Can you repeat that?
The extension of the road to the left of Walmart.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that eventually, there are 3 property owners there, 4 count Walmart. There's Walmart, Lower, Miss SQ, and the Lake District that need to work together to tie into Versailles when it's built, and the pressure is going to be there from a private development standpoint. I mean, when you've got that little space, and it's not little in terms of dollars, but when you look at it on an aerial photograph, it is. When you have that little space, and you initially, those landowners, all of them that I mentioned except Walmart, had interior land that was worth farmland, $1,000 to $2,000 an acre with the uptick price. Now it's gone to so much per square foot. If they only get the road, they'll get the road. They'll get the road. The city doesn't need to build that. Yeah. We'll figure out a way to do it. When you talk infrastructure, though, can you imagine if we were in this community and we said, boy, if we only had a navigable river, that's what we really need, and we'd put that up on a grease board. Gee, if we only had an airport that could land everything, and we had a really nice terminal, let's put that up. We need that. Well, we got that. If we only had, finally, interstate highway and construction going on 4-lane, if we only had that in our community, well, we have all that. The stuff that we need now is intellect and personality driven, and business and politics won't accept a void. Something will fill in there if we don't have the personality and intellect, and so I mean it's things look really good for us. The country is, I mean, we know that. Nobody has to tell you that gasoline where it is, food prices where it is, and yet if you ask most employees today, what's your biggest problem? Is finding employees and keeping them. That's the biggest problem. It's not capital. It's not the environment. But if I like to talk, so Myron, if you want to do this once a quarter,
I think the time is just right. Including going to other meetings. I appreciate it.
Okay,
thank you. It's been informative. Everybody knows what's in front of Kroger's now, and certainly Mr. Marshall leaned forward. Now, started talking about Bolton Avenue.
You can tune in to my AM station. I didn't cover everything in this report, so tomorrow morning, 8 to 9.
All right. Thank you, Rob. Thank you so much for taking the time to come. I think it's very informative. We'll get you back very soon. Let's see, I think we have any other business need to come before Economic Development Committee? Here none, that concludes My committee.
Public safety.
Weed and seed. Get Roosevelt his own gallon.
You can tear one out of her hands.
You got your ribs
Mr. Gottschall.
Yeah, you got them all, Chip.
I would like to call at this time the Public Safety and Transportation Committee meeting to order. Present on the committee is myself, Mr. Silva, Mr. Lawson, other members of the council, the administration. Item number 1 on the agenda is to hear an update report concerning weed and seed program, which is in Councilman Everett Hobbs' district. And at this time, I would like to call Mr. Charlie Anderson forward. But as you come forward, I would like to just pose this information. Hopefully this can be answered by you along with the administration. Number 1, there's a grave concern about weed and seed and where its funding is at this point. And also, Mr. Anderson, the question could be answered, how active is the steering committee and the makeup of that steering committee? Also, Mr. Anderson, I think what needs to be answered so you can inform this council in our conversation a day or two ago, as we talked about funding, you did also mention that certain areas of funding had been lost and that you might have to seek unemployment. But if you can state all those issues and let the council know your position and the position of the future weed and seed at this time.
This is the status of the new budget here. And this is the progress report.
Want to get started now?
Yes. We're going to get started and she'll pass out the report as she returns with the copies.
I'm really elated to share information about weed and seed because I feel like a lot of the area residents are not really knowledgeable about what's going on. But those of you who are not knowledgeable about what weed and seed is, it's not, and I said it's not an agriculture event. It doesn't include planting, growing weeds and seeds. What is mainly is a combined effort between the Department of Justice, city, state, local government, and area residents to improve the quality of life of members of Area 4, Zone 4. And Zone 4 encompasses from Greenhurst on the north all the way down to MacArthur Drive on the south. On the west, it's bordered by Lee Street and Sturks Road. On the east, it's bordered by I-49. To begin with, the objectives of weed and seed is to reduce violent crime in the community and to improve the quality of life for the residents of Area 4. In the efforts in trying to achieve those objectives, I came on board in late September 2007. At that time, the program only had funds that will go from June 2007 to December 31st, 2007. However, we were able to continue on with pre-existing contracts from that were already established during the 2007 period. And therefore, we conducted a closeout, programmatic closeout on March the 31st. Actually, the city closed it out on the last of April. That was closed out for funding. There is no funding at this time, current funding. However, so at this time, we unfortunately, we had to return roughly around about $40,000 back to the federal government, and that's something that occurred prior to my coming on board. There's no one person's fault. I think it was just the beginning of weed and seed. For instance, a lot of individuals were under the impression that weed and seed is a program, but it's not necessarily a program, it's a strategy. What weed and seed does, they supplement existing programs, such as one of our objectives is prevention and intervention. And what I've done right now is, at this time, is touch bases with Mr. Chauncey Harding, Department of Health and Hospitals. They conduct drug prevention and training through the schools and what have you. That's ongoing, so the strategy of weed and seed is to supplement those programs and try to put more specialized preference on it in Zone 4, try to bring some of the already resources that are ongoing, bring them to Zone 4. So that's our prevention intervention. In the area of improving the quality of life, we touch on the subject of trying to establish home buyers, because we know once a person owns his or her own property, they tend to take better care of it. So last year, in the past, they conducted home buyer seminars, and when our funding is approved this year, we intend to continue that. From the months of September through May, we conduct a tutorial program. We have 2 safe havens. One of those tutorial programs take place at Second Nazarene Baptist Church over behind Jimmy Hart Truck Stop. The other one takes place in the Boys and Girls Club over on Sylvester Drive. So these are some of the things that we're doing right now. And for the information, we have not currently been doing anything because we are now pending funding. The funding was reduced from $200,000 last year to $150,000 this year. At this time, the funding is still under review by Community Capacity Development Office in Washington, D.C. So the program is still alive and well. It just is under review. Funding usually is given on a 12-month basis, and it occurs from June through May of the next year. So therefore, any day now we could receive notice on funding for 2008, which would cover from June 2008 to May 2009. Okay. And I covered a little bit about the funding and returning information. There were several questions I want to know. I just forgot. The attention span is kind of short, so if you would reiterate to me what the questions you wanted me to answer, I could make sure I cover those.
One of the things, I guess, one thing that's important to weed and seed is the people that formulate weed and seed. Can you comment on your steering committee? Do you have the people in place to really make weed and seed work, with the steering committee and the people that should function with you?
We did encounter some problems at first. However, on May the 12th, we re-elected new officials for the weed and seed steering committee. We have a total of 15 members now, and they all have signed new memorandums of agreement, and that steering committee now is much better, and we plan to have our next meeting on June 19th. That information was also forwarded to Washington, D.C. as well, that we do now have a full steering committee, and there was an election that took place on May the 12th.
Any other questions from council for Mr. Anderson? I know you do have some of this information. I think Ms. Steele is running off copies right now for the council.
Yes, what I have, I might read to you just a little bit about collaboration that we've done, and also about sustainability and the breakdown of funds that was expended during the last progress report. It covers from June of 2007 through March of 2008. That report they're running on for you now. I'm happy to share all my information with anybody who would like to visit with me in the Martin Community Center on 2301 Mill Street. That's the Martin Community Center. I'm always glad to share because I'm always trying to recruit and educate individuals about what Weed and Seed is all about, and it has great potential. It's just that right now we are experiencing a gap in funding, and we're unable to conduct any real business right now. However, when we do receive notice of funding, and as long as I'm looking at the grant management system on the internet, and it tells me right now that one of those sheets you see, I printed it out, it will tell you that the funding is being reviewed at this time.
Mr. Anderson, with the amount of funding that you said that has been lost, over the next 3 months, which of course, you know, you have the summer programs, a lot of programs where the youth is involved. Do you see those programs being lost for the summer, or is there a continuation of those programs?
No, I don't see it being lost for the summer. I think we will have we'll be maybe about 3 or 4 weeks behind, say the month of June. However, a lot of those programs can take place. For instance, the parenting program that I have a partnership with the HIPPY program, Rapids Parish School Board, where we go out and we do conduct training with the individuals in impoverished type homes, what have you. So, and that takes funding, it takes material that we need, and so I feel definitely that we can continue on. We just maybe 2 to 3 weeks off, but it would not prevent us from carrying out our goals and objectives.
Okay. Do we have any other questions from the council at this point? You received your report concerning the Weed and Seed. Mr. Hobbs?
But the steering committee you're saying that you have now is pretty active.
Well, really can't say how active they are now, but I have new promises because we just elected them on May the 12th.
Okay. Because I know Brother Matthews, and I don't know what that program is.
Revitalization program?
Yeah. Okay, I know y'all gonna try to work in conjunction with each other. What I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Instead of, you know, y'all both going down the same path.
Yeah.
I don't want to see one, you know.
As I tried to stress,
yeah.
The Weed and Seed is a strategy to partnership with agencies that are already doing something, and therefore, once funds are received, you know, if there's something that the revitalization program is doing, you know, we would take those issues to the steering committee, they'd be voted on, and we could use the funding that we have to supplement what they're doing, as long as they're in compliance with the Department of Justice requirements.
Okay, because I know part of what Weed and Seed does, you know, it's going to flow over into the revitalization part, which they're doing. In fact, I know that they got an upcoming, clean up the neighborhood deal sometime this month. And I know on the backdrop, Weed and Seed, you know, that's part of Weed and Seed too. So that's what I'm saying. I don't want to see it kind of.
I think it requires us to collaborate. That's what I'm all about, collaborating with other agencies. And as I'd like to reiterate that we're not doing anything right now because there is no funding. As a matter of fact, you know, I have not received any compensation since 25th of April, but I didn't want the program to fall by the wayside. So there are reports that were required. For instance, the closeout report had to be accomplished at March 31st, and there's a government performance report due on June the 31st of this year. And so that, you know, I've been trying to maintain that as well, but you know, I'm a big boy, I need to eat as well. So, so I haven't given it all the time, but.
How soon would your steering committee come back with some suggestions, you're saying?
How soon will they come back? Yeah. Their first meeting, I can't really answer it directly. Their first meeting would be this June 19th. Our meetings are conducted every third Thursday of the month, unless otherwise posted. I submitted a schedule of the meetings, so I would love to see some of the councilmen, you know, visit with us and partake in what we're doing. I think that would help to motivate the area residents.
Mr. Anderson, if the Weed and Seed doesn't receive the appropriate funding that's needed and you don't hear from Washington, D.C., Is there another plan of action in place so far as the programs for South Alexandria is concerned, based on what direction you'd like to see the program go?
Sure. The revitalization program, as was just mentioned, is pretty coincides with what we are doing. And when you talk of sustainability, for instance, there are other funding sites you can tap into through the Department of Justice. And if WEDC doesn't go through, we can try to get funding for us. The tutorial program has been very beneficial to a lot of members in that area. And we have a tutorial program which takes place during school sessions at the Boys and Girls Club. And I can see that being sustained, even if WEDC goes away. Just a matter of acquiring funding from other sources.
And I think, along with that said, I think one of the biggest areas of concern, I think, in that area is a law enforcement side of community policing. And that's going well, am I correct?
Well, community policing is one of the components of WEDC. And those guys, you can really see the results in some of our high crime areas. And I think that community policing just receives part of the compensation from WEDC. But I think once WEDC should go away, should we not be funded, community policing will continue.
Okay.
It just may not have as many, hours or overtime or something like that. But I think from what I gather from the weed officer, that community policing will be ongoing.
Okay, Mr. Anderson, I would like to thank you for your report and bringing it to the council, the administration. And at this time, I'd like to hear from Ms. Lisa Harris, representing the administration on Weed and Seed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Just real quickly, I wanted to bring the council up to date. The city served as the fiscal agent for the Weed and Seed initiative. And as Mr. Anderson has stated, there's the funding is pending for their next fiscal year. Mr. Washington, who is the U.S. Attorney for this district, had submitted a request or a letter to the mayor asking the city's response as to where they were going or what our support was for the Weed and Seed initiative. And I did speak with Mr. Anderson and also Ms. Wadsworth, who's the steering committee chair, asking that we get information or we get written documentation of the steering committee, the signed memorandum of understanding from those members stating what they were bringing to the initiative or to the strategy. And Mr. Anderson did say that they had them, and I was at that meeting, that May meeting, and we haven't received those copies of those memorandums of understanding, but administration, until the steering committee comes together and they're clearly defined and they receive the technical support that they need to go forward with the strategy, the administration is not prepared to sign on again as the fiscal agent, because if we do, we are responsible for any funding that we receive and funding that is given out for the strategy. So administration just wanted to make sure that things were clearly defined with the funding and the way things were set up and how it was going to operate. And I know, as Mr. Anderson has mentioned, that his steering committee is basically coming back together, they've got new members, and he has new promises from them. And once they, get their goals and objectives in place and they they solicit this technical support, which the federal government does offer to them free of charge, then administration can reevaluate that as coming back on as their fiscal agent. He mentioned about, and you mentioned also about the weed side, and Chief Hay is here. He can speak on what his officers have actually done in the area for the weed side of that strategy.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Harris. We'll hear from Chief Hay at this time, and then we'll wrap up. Thank you, Ms. Harris.
We entered into the agreement, the Weed and Seed agreement earlier, and dedicated 2 officers and a supervisor to the area, as well as establishing a community police, I guess you would say, substation at the Martin Center. It's my understanding that we're still committed to that. As y'all all know, we're committed to community policing. They are going to stay there regardless of whether this is funded or not. The chief is dedicated that. So we're here to stay. I think it's been a great success. The crime rate in that particular area is down. The relationship between the police department and the citizens over there is greatly improved. So I would say on our half of it, or our half that we've done, it's been a complete success, and I'd be glad to answer any questions. I have no statistics, but I know that the violent crimes and the calls for services are down, and the relationship between the officers working there and the citizens living there is greatly improved.
Thanks, Chief Hay.
What I just heard, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Lawson.
What I just heard from all the ones that presented to me, then I'm anxious to see what we need to do in working with this new team that has signed on to continue to make this make sense. I understand we had some bumps in the road, but I'll wait to see this root comes of it. But when I hear crime rate is down and I hear that relationships are better, I think those are the kind of things that we look for, and it sounds as if you're attributing that to what has happened with the VCC program and your side of it as well. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, sir. It's allowed us to dedicate personnel specifically to that area and gain the trust and cooperation of the citizens there.
Thank you. I would like to thank all three of you for your reports today, and what we'll do after another month, maybe the next 30 to 40 days, come back with an updated report after there's a couple of meetings with the steering committee to see where you are. So at this time, again, thank you, and we'll move to item number 2 on our agenda, which is to hear from Red Flex concerning cameras at traffic lights. And this is an informational report and coming from them today.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson, and council members and administration. What we're going to talk about right now may be one of the most important public safety issues that I think this city and council can look at today. I'll give you a little bit of history of timeline. A little over a year ago, this council and this administration, or the administration, put in force some ordinances that would have dramatically helped your police department in traffic safety. And your ordinances were put on the books, I believe it was March of last year, for photo enforcement of both red light running and speeding. I believe it's March the 22nd or 3rd is when those were put on the books. After that, there was a request for proposals sent out by the city to select a vendor to provide the services to the city. In, I believe it was July of last year, from a competitive process, I believe there was either 3 or 4 vendors that submitted proposals to the city. Red Flex Traffic Systems was selected as the vendor in the competitive process. Since then, we have attempted to make contact to see what we need to do to get help you and get the program moving. We would just again like to report today that we're simply trying to do that to help you enforce the ordinances that you have on your books for over a year now. I haven't presented in front of you a survey or video surveys that we did for the city of Alexandria last year. And that video survey is done on a very professional basis to determine the degree of problems that you're having with red light running in the city. If you would look at that I have in front of you right there that says video surveys, I think it's the first or second item that you have in front of you there. By the way, as you're looking at that, I'm happy to report that when we were selected as your vendor almost a year ago now, Red Flex Traffic Systems partnered with about 140 to 150 cities across the United States. I'm happy to report today that we partner with about 204 cities, and we are now part of the largest photo enforcement program in the country, soon to be the largest in the world, and that's Chicago. In addition to that, some other cities like Austin and Corpus Christi. I'd like to call your attention to this video survey, and the way this is done is that we came into Alexandria, we put a video camera in location on these intersections for 12 hours. The results of that was sent back, the hard video was sent back to our company in Scottsdale to interpret the results. It's done both on the software and real people looking at the numbers. So I'll point out that Broadway and I-49, that intersection with the eastbound approach, in a 12-hour period of time, saw 72 straight-through red light violations in a 12-hour period. Now, I want you to understand that under the state penalty for red light running, if any portion of your vehicle is in the intersection when the light turns red, that is a state criminal penalty, a moving violation. Under your ordinance, the violation only occurs if you enter the intersection after the light turns red. So those 72 violations in a 12-hour period meant that automobiles entered the intersection after the light turned red, those 72 vehicles. You'll notice that Jackson and Dorchester, both the eastbound and westbound, got 38 and 52. Halsey and MacArthur, 33 on the southbound. Jackson and MacArthur, 25. Jackson and Wimbledon, 34. Lee and MacArthur, northbound, southbound, 19 and 23. Lee and MacArthur, on the right turn on red violation, there were actually 17 there for a total of 45 when you look at left turn straight through and right turn on red. If you'll look at Coliseum and MacArthur, there was 118 red light violations in 12 hours. And Elliott and MacArthur, 44. Rapides and MacArthur, 24 and 33. That was a total of all of these, including the ones that didn't have a lot of violations. That was a total of 590 violations of entering the intersection after the light turned red in a 12-hour period of time. Obviously, in 24 hours, it probably wouldn't double, but if you extrapolate that over a month's time, you'll see the degree of problem that you've got with red light running there. Recently in Alexandria, I know there's been a lot of information, disinformation, and misinformation regarding the photo enforcement programs. Jefferson Parish, which is a partner of jurisdiction of ours, 6 months ago, we installed 19 camera locations in Jefferson Parish. The first 2 months, there were 41,000 violations. 41,000 violations. Since then, in 6 months, we have already reduced that by about 50%. Today, there's less than 10,000 per month, which is still a lot. But when you reduce violations by 10,000 per month, that translates into a lot of property being saved, a lot of lives, perhaps injuries and deaths being changed. The whole purpose of this program is changing driving behavior. I don't know if any of you have ever had one of your constituents call you and say, hey, there's a lot of speeding in my neighborhood. There's red light running. The solution to a lot of this problem is with photo enforcement. There's a lot of demands on your police department today, not the least of which is $4 gasoline. And I know you're having trouble finding money to put gas in these vehicles. This is a way that we can provide a force multiplier for you and for your police department, improve public safety, and we're ready to move. Like I said, we were awarded as your vendor last year, and since then we have installed programs in Jefferson Parish, in Lafayette, in Baker. Gretna will soon be online here very soon, and a lot of other jurisdictions around the state. But I have with me, and we'll have him speak if you, especially questions of legal issues. I have Judge David Williams from New Orleans, a retired judge who has looked at the legal environment here. Of course, most other cities around the state have looked at it and are moving forward with this because it is on a very safe and sound legal footing, and the cities that are using it today have dramatically improved public safety because of this device. I have a lot of statistics I could go into with you here, not the least of which is the Federal Highway Administration. In one of their reports, you'll hear some of people who in the blogosphere today will say certain things over and over again, and all of a sudden it seems like it's the gospel. But the Federal Highway Administration, in one of their reports, says there are a number of studies that indicate reduction in crashes at signalized intersections due to red light cameras is promoting red light cameras as one of the identified priority market-ready safety technologies today. You'll hear some people saying that that it's going to increase rear end accidents. I have study after study here that is professional studies in Iowa and North Carolina that has not shown that. The largest increase that we have shown in any, or that has come through in any of these studies, was maybe a 4% increase in one North Carolina study, and at the same time there was a 60% reduction in right angle crashes. So gentlemen, we're here, we're ready to start our program and help you improve public safety in Alexandria. And I just wanted to find out what questions you might have of us, and you may want to ask some questions of some legal nature, and I'll have Judge Williams address that as well. But what questions would you have of us?
Any questions?
I guess my issue has always been, I am totally not interested in this as a way to make money. You didn't suggest that.
No, sir.
I've heard it before from some other elected officials in another municipality. Purely, I want to be statistically driven on this decision. And I think it'll be based on, does it save lives, quite frankly? Does it avoid accidents? And I think the administration's in the process of actually already looking into whether it does just that. And I'm anxiously waiting for a recommendation from them, but I am concerned, quite frankly, and looking at our chief executive officer about these running of the lights. That's atrocious.
Well, it is a fact.
If that information that you provided us today is accurate, I'm quite embarrassed by it, quite frankly.
Actually, we provided that information to y'all, 6 or 7 months ago.
The recent information?
Those
I didn't know it's not dated, if I recall.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was actually done in August of the final surveys were done in August of last year.
Okay, and that's the ones that you just showed with
Yes,
the
sir.
recent 12 hours.
Yes, sir. Those were done in August.
So, without a doubt, I think our police department certainly can do some stuff to deter that. I always think, and of course, it's not cost effective. The best way to deter those kind of activities is to have a reputation that some of our cities have within the parish. The tolerance is very, very limited with that type of activity. So I think that we certainly can do some things before we even make a decision that probably eliminate some of the running of the red lights. But I'm waiting on the administration to come back. I think they'll come back fairly soon with a decision on this occasion. Certainly, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't want this to be driven. Nor do I want to hear anything about what type of money the municipality could make, quite frankly, if it would be a decision of this body, which I don't know whether it will or will be, to decide to do this. I would encourage us to utilize any type of revenue that we would be obtain off this to go into something, whether it's a fund to support law enforcement or whether it's a fund to support the indigent community that we support. I'm waiting on statistics. I'm waiting on the recommendation from the administration.
If I might, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ms. McGill.
Just for clarification, the red light camera program was something that was initiated before this administration took office. Chief Cootie and I think Laura Sylvester, the assistant city attorney at that time, did some research, and it was Chief Cootie who proposed it to the council some time ago. The RFPs were issued before we took office, because when we came into office, those had already been responded to, and 2 were made available to me, and that was the one from Red Flex and one from American Traffic. We reviewed those, and a recommendation has a formal recommendation has never been made. The ordinance that was passed last March, in March of 2007, was to amend the city code to allow for implementation of a process for traffic citations issued pursuant to red light cameras. It was just a procedural matter. an ordinance has never been passed in final form accepting any of the vendors who proposed RFPs to install red light cameras. Legal has been looking at it. There's been some litigation that has raised some questions.